Welcome to the Joy Hour Show. I'm your host, Tom Lyman, and this is where we have real talk about real life. Today I'm in the studio with my friend, Dr. Damian Nesser.
Pleasure to be here, Tom.
So good to have you here. We've been having quite the time the last couple of days, and wish I could capture all of our conversations to share hope and inspire others. Today I am excited to capture as much as we can, just learning about you, your heart, your passions, and what you've been through. You know, I've known you a couple years now, and so thankful that God put us together. Actually in Dallas, that's where we first met at a great conference.
Yeah, 2 years ago at Amberley Lagos Conference. And when I stepped off the elevator with Amberley and her husband, the first person I saw on whatever floor that was Tom Lyman, and that's where we met, and God put us together, so it's pretty amazing. The 4 years ago, I met Amberley at her first mastermind, and unbeknownst to me, well, they kind of notified people who wanted to come, and I was looking into becoming a life coach, really didn't know what that meant fully, but I wanted to go to Amberley's event, and unbeknownst to me, because I wasn't paying attention, I was going through a lot with my mom, which we'll talk about. She had vascular dementia. I ventured out to California, to Malibu, California, and attended her first event with 12 beautiful entrepreneurial women who make such a great impact. Brooke Hemingway, Catherine Gordon, the list goes on and on. And I was the only male. I was the token male. And they actually, when I came up to the house, which was a beautiful setting, right on the water, the first lady, entrepreneurial lady who met me was Brooke Hemingway. She gave me a big hug. And then all of a sudden, I look to the right corner. I see these two boots coming down and Amberly's scar on her leg. And it was Amberly, and she gave me a big hug. And I felt so welcomed, and that's really what started off my coaching career. So that was an amazing thing that God did.
It's incredible how God does that, you know, puts people into our lives. And just thinking back to how I ended up finding her. I hadn't listened to podcasts very long, but I was listening to Ed Milet, just a name I'd heard, so I started listening to his podcasts. And all of a sudden, I'm listening to one with Amberly and Ed, and she just was doing real talk, and that caught my attention so quick. I listened to the whole episode, and because of her transparency and being open with her struggles and things that she's gone through, I became inspired to start doing more of that. And I reached out to her thinking, you know, this type of person's probably too busy, won't reply, you know, that's okay. But I just said, thank you for what you do. It inspired me. Keep it up, God bless. And it was a short time later, I got a response, which was definitely, you know, at the right time in my life, where we just connected via text and then email. And then I came to her event 2 years ago, not knowing, same thing, what I was coming to really. Walked in, and there must have been 100 people right here in Dallas at the conference, and you know, met you and so many other great people that, again, when I have this self-doubt, other people have encouraged me to carry on and continue on and push forward. And of course, God has told me to do this with sharing my story openly, but there's a lot of times those voices will come in and say, well, nobody wants to hear your story, or, you know, the imposter syndrome of, you know, just go back to what you've always done. If that's a career choice and you stay stuck in that career, or if that's a mindset and you stay stuck in that mindset. And sometimes these rooms have been what have given me that boost to say, no, God told me to do it. These others are encouraging me to push forward and to be authentic and be transparent and be open. And I admire that so much about you and about Amberly and so many others that I've met just in the past couple of years. Yeah, I don't think it's an accident at all that we're sitting here today. We've stayed in touch for 2 years, built a friendship, and even though I think I see a glimpse of what God's doing in our stories now together, we'll see what all transpires. But these are people that want to use their voice to help encourage others and inspire others and talk about pain, talk about life, talk about addiction, talk about things that we've been through in order to encourage others and inspire others, and of course point them to God, because he is he's able to step in and do the miraculous in no time at all, but he does require us to put in the work as well. So thankful for how I've got to meet you through her and through others.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So one of the key things that I think that brought us together was this is real life, and my cell phone is leaving me a message, so I'm turning it off.
I was like, we got music in the studio.
We got
Let's
real
go.
music.
That's great.
So God connected us through. I'm an underdog.
Tell me
and I know
your
you
story.
came from an underdog setting, but I was born 2 months premature, and the doctors told Joe, who is John Travolta. Those of you that know Grease, and even the younger generations have seen the movie Grease. So Celia was Olivia Newton-John, my mom, and Joe was John Travolta, real tough, rough street guy, and my mom was Miss Prim and Proper. Her family owned a deli on Saratoga Avenue in New York, in Rochester, New York. And my family was from Ormond Street in Rochester, very poor. My father actually, at 17 years old, would caddy at the Genesee Valley Golf Club just to help pay the beautiful electric bill. I'm looking at the lights in this beautiful studio. And, love don't pay the rent, right?
Right.
You got to pay the bills.
Got to work.
So, with that said, the doctors told Joe and Seal, my parents, unfortunately, we don't think your baby's going to survive. We don't think he may not walk, he may not play sports, he may not be able to run. I defied all the odds through God's purpose in my life. And I was captain of my basketball team, I played football, I wrestled. So if you're an underdog today, I'm talking to you.
Yeah.
Are you an underdog today in some area of your life? You can overcome your circumstances, right, Tom?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
And so, career, I'm going to give you a little synopsis of my career. I started out in banking my first 5 years out of college, and banking wasn't for me.
Yeah.
I decided that after 5 years, God, you got to do something different with me. I'm tired of just doing numbers. I got to do something different. So I decided, certainly God led, to go to Israel for 2 weeks and to Egypt for 2 weeks. And the adventurous side of me decided to actually climb one of the pyramids of Giza. Back in 1997, you can get away with that. You couldn't get away with it now, but I actually paid the guards off. I believe it was 600 Egyptian pounds, which came out to about approximately $200.
Wow.
3 o'clock in the morning, climbed up about halfway up the pyramid. Took me about 45 minutes to climb up, 20 minutes to jump down, and I've given 19 years of classroom lessons in language arts, math, science, geography, with all that I just said, but I got more in depth. But the Egyptians were amazing. And with that said, while I was in Egypt and Israel, I was detained in an Egyptian jail for 1 hour when I was crossing that border. And then when I was going into Israel, I was detained for another hour, all because my former passport had, I don't know, probably 10 other country stamps from various countries around the world. And my last name is Nesser, N-E-S-S-E-R, and they actually thought I was Nasser Arafat. So the generation that knows about Nasser Arafat laugh out loud. They actually detained me and were questioning a lot of things. And this is obviously before 9/11. This is 1997. And I called my brother Joe, who was an attorney back at the time, now a judge. And I said, Joe, a cell phone was about this big. Joe, what do I do? And Joe said, shut up and just do what you're told, and everything's going to be fine. So God came through, put me through a little trauma going through that. But it was a great experience because it taught me about now, pushing forward, some 33 years later, a lot of people get stereotyped in the world that we live in today. Young people that may be listening, even adults, never stereotype anyone, because I learned this from Robin Williams. I taught at Andre Agassi School in Vegas for a year before I moved to Florida the past 18 years. He said, Mr. N, back then I was Mr. N, Mr. N, never stereotype anyone because you never know what they're going through on the inside.
Yeah.
How profound is that, Tom?
Yeah, so true. But yet so often that thought comes in, we see a person and we can make an assumption, and 99% of the times we're way off.
Mm-hmm.
So we gotta connect and listen and love people. Never know their story, what they've been through, and I know we're just scratching the surface of your story here. Take us through just some of those hardest moments as you were, going through school and going through life. What were some of the more defining moments where you pushed through challenges physically or?
Great question. As a matter of fact, for those, dementia, or the topic of dementia has become very prevalent worldwide. Mm-hmm. Multiple millions of people are suffering from dementia. There's families right now worldwide that don't even know that their mother, father, grandmother, grandfather has dementia. Mm-hmm. We experienced it. I have 4 older brothers, and we actually experienced this with my mom, Celia. And really, I'm going to briefly touch on 8 types of dementia, and then I'm going to roll back through our story of me becoming a home health care aide. But to begin with here, so it begins with dementia. So the first part, the first type is Alzheimer's. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the umbrella of the first type. It's the most common cause of dementia. Alzheimer affects an estimated 60 to 80% of all people with dementia. And then number 2, we have vascular dementia. My Celia, my mother Celia suffered from that. We're going to touch on that later when I go through some funny points, some serious points, some scary points. But that's number 2. That's vascular dementia. And vascular dementia is considered the second most common type of dementia, accounting for about 15 to 20% of all cases in North America and Europe. And so going on to the third point, or the third type of dementia, is I struggle with this, Lewy body dementia. Lewy body dementia, or LBD, affects about 1.4 million Americans over the age of 50. Many people first heard of the disease when it was discovered by Robin Williams, who suffered from undiagnosed LBD before his death. Mm-hmm. He was a trooper, and I would have never known. When he was telling jokes, he made me laugh so hard at Agassiz Prep in Las Vegas that I said, "Excuse me, Mr. Williams, I have to use the bathroom. Can I come back?" And he said, "Well, hurry up. Go to the bathroom, come back so I can tell another joke." I mean, he loved life when he lived it, and no one expected him to end his life the way he did. But so for those of you who are suffering from depression, part of my coaching, which we may or may not get into a little bit, is I help clients who suffer from, and students who suffer from dementia, depression, which is a huge issue in the United States, right, Tom?
Yeah.
So number 4, the fourth type is front temporal dementia, and FTD is less common, affecting 60,000 Americans per year. However, is the most common type of dementia for people under 60, according to the Association of Front Temporal Degeneration. I always have trouble saying that. Bruce Willis, obviously many people in the United States, worldwide, know who Bruce Willis is. He suffers from this awful disease as well. And so going on to number 5, hydrocephalus, it's NPH, occurs when there's an excess of cerebral spinal fluid, CSF. I don't want to get deep into being a doctor because I'm not a medical doctor, but I just wanted to mention that because what you could do if families are going through a family member potentially suffering from dementia, which I'll talk about in my story with my brothers, with our family dynamics a little later. That's important because at least you're aware of the different types, right, Tom? Mm-hmm. So number 6, Huntington's disease. About 40,000 Americans have this progressive inherited brain disorder passed down through mutation of the Huntington gene, which is primarily affects the area of the brain which plays a key role in movement, behavior, and mood. That's very important. And then number 7, this is a tough one. It's called Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease. It's a rare brain disorder. Only about 350 Americans each year get this disease. CJD is a fast-moving fatal disease caused by an infectious misfolded prion protein of the brain. For those of you who are maybe doctors or someone in the medical field, I know this makes a lot more sense to you than it does to me. I'm just a layman trying to educate our audience, and I hope this will be helpful. And last but not least, the Wernicke-Korsakoff syndrome, which is WK, is a syndrome of degenerative brain disease caused by a deficiency of the thiamine, which is vitamin B1. And that's important. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take a trip back in time about 4 years, and we're going to talk about my experience of working with Celia as a home health care aide. And this experience is also found in our book called Bloom Where You Are. Don't let your circumstances dominate you. You dominate your circumstances. If you're Christian, you dominate with the help of God or the Lord. If you're not, just get a big support group. Make sure that you are organized, and we'll kind of touch on that as well because there's so much to this part. So really, my story as a home health care aide began with various texts and phone conferences with my 4 older brothers. Here we go with the family dynamics. I have a whole chapter in our book with family dynamics, and I prayed a lot, struggled with this, and asked the Lord, God, what should I do? And God just kept saying, go. I take bike rides in the morning. That's part of what I do to relieve stress or anxiety. I also work as a full-time counselor in Florida, and school counselor, and I actually work, and over the past 33 years, I've worked with thousands of parents, thousands of students, and or guardians, and help them with depression, anxiety, overcoming, being an underdog, such as myself. That just fuels my fire. So if you're an underdog today, please make note, you don't have to be an underdog. You can overcome with either the help of the Lord if you're a Christian, and if not, you can get help from your community and form a good team. Forming a good team is essential, right, Tom?
Yep, connection. Yep.
Connection's huge. So I prayed a lot, and I sold my home in Parrish, Florida, sold my furniture, took my 13-year-old, then 13, now he's 16, Bruno, mom's furry angel, it's one of the chapters of the book, how intuitive dogs are, and moved back to Pittsford, New York, which is upstate New York. And so the first event, getting off the road, tired, traveling cross country, I go to the hospital where my mom is recuperating with physical therapy. My brother Joe is a judge, very black and white type of individual. I hear this conversation going on. My mother did not know I was listening. I'm peering over there looking at him, and my mom's in the bed, and Joe's to her left side. And my mother said, "That pit bull is not coming in my house." And my brother said, "Yes, he is, and that's final. That's Damian's son, and he's got to be with Damian." And so my mom reluctantly said, "Yes, we'll see." So she gave him the probationary period.
Right.
By the time my mother, Celia, passed, Bruno was one of her best friends.
Wow.
So, and he was very intuitive because as mom's vascular dementia got worse, Bruno got up less and less from the couch to the refrigerator or getting fed snacks from people coming in and visiting Aunt Seal, nieces, nephews, just pouring in every day, visiting her. He wouldn't get up. So when Mom hit phase 6, right before she went into a coma, she was still home in a hospital bed that I organized, I ordered the equipment. We got through all that. And Mom didn't like not being able to go back and forth to her bedroom where she lived in the same house for 58 years. So imagine that. So if you're going through that, some of you, or maybe several of you are listening now, and you're going through a loved one that has dementia, please take note, and you can even reach out, and we'll go through that information at the end. But it was amazing because Bruno got up less and less going to the refrigerator and stayed right by my mother's side, right before, it was like days before she went into a coma. And I told my brothers, I know Mom doesn't have that much time. Well, how do you know? You're the youngest. Well, you know, for those of you that are youngest and you have older siblings and the family dynamic plays a part, be strong, especially with God. You got to be strong, take over. God said, take over, and I did. And I was strong. And that was the first time in my life that I spoke up against my 4 older brothers, kind of like Joseph, right? Yeah. And Joseph is one of my favorite characters in the Bible for the Christians that are listening. And that story from Genesis 36 through 50, really, or 37 through 50, really inspired me to really carry on and really do what God wanted me to do in that circumstance, because I couldn't do it without him. They would have I would have been buried in doubt, being an underdog. But yeah, so fighting through the cooking and the cleaning. I did the cooking, cleaning, and took her Celia to doctor appointments. And my brothers couldn't believe what I was doing, because sometimes I had to do double shifts. We had A, B, and C shift. I was on the B shift. Amy, one of Mom's aides, was like a daughter to her, was on the A shift. And then Alyssa would come on the C shift, but sometimes they'd take off. And that would mean I'd have to do a double shift. I didn't want to bother my brothers because my pride got in the way. So I went through, I've got a coaching page on sleep deprivation. So if you're going through helping a parent or a loved one right now with dementia, don't get caught in the trap of sleep deprivation because you think you're Superman and you could just do it all, right, Tom? You got to depend on your team, right? How important is team to Only Source or the Joy Hour podcast, Tom?
Oh, it's huge. I think the thing that comes to mind is asking for help. You know, being able to admit weakness or tiredness or exhaustion and truly ask others for help. And that comes back to ego and pride that would restrict us from doing that. But we're not meant to do really much of anything on our own. We need God, we need each other, but we do need to be able to ask for help and say, I need you.
Yeah, so don't get caught in that trap because it's very, very easy to fall in that ditch. And before I forget, if you are going through that and you suspect if you suspect your parent or loved one of going through dementia or having symptoms of dementia, please make sure, and we have a coaching page on that as well. What do you do? Like, how do you take care of the finances? My mother was paying $6,000, I'm going to say it again, $6,000 a month in a facility in New York, upstate New York. And if my brother Joe didn't put the paperwork through for him to be the executor, very good with finances, thank you, Joe, and put me in place of, and me stepping out into filling in the gap with pretty much everything else with my family's support of my brothers and their wives, giving a shout out to them, we would have potentially lost most of my mom's inheritance. And I actually helped 2 deputies in Bradenton, Florida. This is real stuff. 2 deputies thanked me a couple months ago on an email stating, if it wasn't for you, we would have lost our family fortune and we'd have lost everything because the hospital and the expenses and the insurance is just sucking it up. Like a sponge sucking up water, right, Tom? Because Tom and I have talked about this a few times. It's pretty awful, horrific stories. But one stormy night, this is funny and scary at the same time. Just picture this in your minds. Stormy, rainy, windy. It was probably about 35-mile-an-hour winds, upstate New York. It was probably, I think it was in September, where the lights went out, and my mother and I and Bruno were, and it was one of the aides actually called off work, so I didn't. Here's where I got caught in my pride, fell in the trap, called off, and I did double shift, and this is when I was going on 5 hours of sleep. This is no exaggeration. In Spanish, they say sin exagerado. 5 hours a night for 2 straight months. And I was just getting ripped. Like I was just so many bad things going through my head, judging people, being impatient. Because when you get tired and sleep deprivation kicks in, you're not yourself. You can't be.
Right.
There's no way. And the only thing that kept me together was the grace of God. But the wind's blowing, the lights go out. And the only set of eyes I saw was Bruno, who was sitting to my left. I was on the couch. My mother was across from me, about 4 feet across from me in a reclining chair. It was before she hit stage 6, before we actually had the hospital bed in the living room. Mm-hmm. That's part of what you need to do is you got to reconfigure your house, mm-hmm. and it might be very expensive. So those are some of the tips I give you in the book. Well, to continue on the story, Bruno's looking up at me. He's scared. He's burying his head in the pillow because he's scared. Mm-hmm. We're watching a movie called not Saved by Grace, but Acquitted by Grace. It's on Amazon. It's with Michael W. Smith, and it's a movie about a convict who finds the Lord, mm-hmm. and his whole life changes. And that was one of my mom's favorite movies, but she'd always say, because she's in around stage 6, wow, that looks like a good movie, honey. We watched about 2,000 movies in like a 2-year period. Yeah. That looks like a good movie, honey. Can we watch it? Can we watch it? And she saw it about 10 times. That's how my mother accepted Jesus Christ as a personal Savior. Yeah. After years of talking to her and witnessing to her, and God's faithful. Mm-hmm. So always remember, in the tough times, God will be faithful. So with that said, Mom's glaring eyes beamed at me in the night. Just the moon was going through some of the windows. Mm-hmm. My mother's house was, built in 1967, one of those old-style ranch houses on the dark side, not a lot of light. Mm-hmm. And her eyes were peering at me, and I said, oh, no, to myself. She's going into a sundowner moment. For those of you that may not know, a sundowner moment is when a person who has dementia can go from, oh, hi, Tom. How are you today? Darn you, Tom. What are you talking about? Get away from me. Just like that. Wow. They flip on a dime. And my mother flipped out on me and said, get away from me. I don't know what we're doing here. Who are you? She started screaming. Wow. So immediately, somebody gave me a tip of whenever it's dark, it kind of fuels the fire because stress. I can't prove this medically. Some of you doctors listening may be able to prove it medically, but I believe that as a person's stress goes up, the more my mother got stressed, mm-hmm. the worse her dementia got through the phases 1 through 7 dementia. Mm-hmm. Okay, so as my mom was screaming at me, I'm scampering around, going around. If you can imagine, going around a lady who's lived there for 58 years. She's 86 years old at this time, or 87, and I'm pulling out these Little House on the Prairie candles, trying to find a match or a lighter. I light all these candles. I must have lit about 7 or 8 candles in the kitchen and the living room just to light it up. And as soon as I did that, she said, she was so organized, and actually reminds me of your wife because your wife is so organized. Mm-hmm. She said, make sure you put the candles back. So I knew right then and there. The sundowner went for about 5 minutes of her screaming at me, and I'm trying to scamper around finding some light. I didn't have a flashlight. Of course, it didn't work, Murphy's Law. Mm-hmm. And I had one right on the counter. It didn't work, of course. Yeah. And so after that experience, I really realized, correction on the movie. It's called Pardoned by Grace, and you can find it on Amazon. And it's an amazing evangelical movie that really explains the grace of God, the mercy of God, the patience of God. And Mom asked a lot of questions. Celia asked a lot of questions about what's the difference between what you believe and what I believe. And she was part of a religion for, 88 years of her life. Wow. And such is my father's testimony. I witnessed to my father several times before his passing, and we had a heart-to-heart come to Jesus meeting on his deathbed. And we'll see. I'm going to see them again someday soon, and that's the wonderful thing about Christianity. If you're Christian, if you're not, that's fine too. Just make sure whatever you do, capital letters, TEAM, team, is huge, right, Tom, for whatever we're going through in life.
Yeah. Yeah, we talk a lot about connection versus isolation. And so many times men and women will go through trials of life and, things that weren't on their agenda, surprises that happen, health and financial and physical, and all these things come in as we go through life. And the tendency is to isolate in our own apartment, our own car, our own mindset. And so, so much is about connection versus isolation. And, I think about even the great commandment, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, and mind. Love your neighbor as yourself. And, we've got neighbors all around us, and we're more connected than ever with our cell phones if we want to be, and social media. But yet we hear all the time about isolation and loneliness. There's an epidemic of loneliness in our world right now. And I think about that. It's like hundreds of years ago, we didn't have all these ways to be connected, but now we do, but yet we're more lonely now. And so, yes, overall, I could just go on and on about the importance of connection versus isolation. In your book here, well, first of all, how would they find, anybody listening right now, how would they find your book? How would they find your website to learn more?
Yeah, it's lifeasaclassroom.net, lifeasaclassroom.net. And also for some of the coaching tools that I alluded to during our amazing conversation, which was so full of insight, because we just feed off each other. And that's what you need to find. You need to find friends and our family that you could feed off of. If you're Christian, you want to grow in the Lord, you need small groups. You need a good church. You need faithful friends in your inner circle. Tom is in my inner circle. He's like a brother from another mother.
Right. Same father, though.
Yeah, same father. And I actually said it to a couple members of his church, and they're like, really? You guys are brothers? But lifeasaclassroom.net. To find some of the coaching tools, it's lifeasaclassroom.net / Bloom Tools. And it'll go to the coaching page. And everything that we talked about in our great conversation is there.
Yeah. I was thinking about when I lost my dad 7.5 years ago, and same thing, we brought the bed, hospice, everything, brought the bed into the living room. And wow, how life can change so quick. He was only 69 years old.
Wow, that's young.
His mom was 99.
Wow.
I mean, he was healthy. Things were going great. But, colon cancer came in, and by the time he got it checked, it was too late. And so they told us 3 months, and it was just about to the day, 3 months.
Wow.
And I'm thankful that I did get to spend a lot of time by the bedside. Of course, the regret I have is that I wasn't in the right frame of mind. It was during my years of heavy addiction with alcohol and substance abuse. But we did have some good times, and those were tough times. If you're going through these times of grief and loss with the loved one, with a family member, it happens every day. And, yet we can go through life so quick that, we don't remember that people we see might have just lost a loved one yesterday. And we can make pre-assumptions and prejudgments or prejudice against somebody because of the way they look, or the color of their skin, or the car they drive, or the look on their face. And we can be standing in line at a grocery store and get all worked up about a situation based on what we think a person is, and yet we don't know anything about them. The cashier that's checking us out, or the waiter or waitress, and we don't know what they're going through. But when they're going through times like this, who's there for them, or are they isolated or connected? And so I believe that the more that we talk about these topics, it will open up conversations for people. And that's the goal of really this podcast, is to have a lot of discussions about real life and real talk, so that we can help others, but also so we can pause throughout our week and give more grace and more space, even in the way we drive our cars. The road rage that happens, and yet there's how many car accidents a day that are fatal, and we don't think it's going to happen to us until it does. I never thought I'd lose my dad. I never thought until he was 100 years old. He was doing so good, but yet it happened.
Yeah, and you brought up hospice, and there's through the process of dementia, through the process of trial, it doesn't have to be dementia, obviously. Individuals go through denial.
Yeah.
My brothers and I were in denial for X number of years, and like 5 years ago, when we started having these heavy conversations about dementia and what's going to happen with, money, or what do we do, and what is dementia? I didn't know what dementia was. I Googled it while we were talking on the phone at the same time, or texting, and I learned a little bit of what dementia was. But, denial's a funny thing. It could really help you in realization of getting out of denial, or it could really hurt you. And I know families that lost everything because they kept, no, mom and dad or the loved one they don't have it, denial. We got mom into hospice, and this is a shout out to the nurses at Highland Hospital. My birthday's coming up, I'll be 58. I was born at Highland Hospital 58 years ago. My mom passed away on the 5th floor of Highland Hospital. 88 years later, she's amazing lady. And the hospice nurses are some of the most amazing, and some of you in the audience or listeners are shaking your head yes, and just maybe you have a tear in your eye, because I'm about to tear up, because those hospice nurses at Highland Hospital were some of the most kind-hearted, loving Christian women I ever met. And really, I'm glad I'm saying this, because I'm supposed to. I sang in a choir for 13 years, Spanish and English, and I sang to my mom for a good half an hour when I was alone with her right before the family started coming up, really pretty much on her last 24 hours. And I sang Amazing Grace, and Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. You know what? Be strong. Love the ones you're with. Love your team. Love your workplace. Think of everything as a mission field, so you can give back to others and learn, dream, and achieve, and give back to someone who can't give back to you in your classroom of life. Right, Tom?
So good. I think of hospitals, and, I need to make another visit, and every time I do, it brings me back to how fragile life is. And if it's not hospitals, it's retirement homes, it's cemeteries. And I think a lot of us just need to, have these type of conversations so that we live in the moment more. This is awesome. I'm pretty confident we're going to do multiple podcasts over the next few months, few years. But what if? And so that brings me back to the present, like just being here right now, having electricity, having the time to capture this together.
Dr. Recker would say, live in the now.
Live in the now, yeah. And yet there's this other way that a lot of us have lived, I know I have, where it's the past is on my mind a lot, the fear of the future is on my mind a lot, and I'm not really living in the present, and I'm procrastinating, thinking, I'll go fishing with my dad next week, next month, next summer, and then all of a sudden, he's not here to go fishing with. And so those type of moments, folks, just live in the now, be thankful for the moment, and be intentional. I think a lot of us are guilty. I am at times, and this is why I have these conversations, but guilty of walking around with my phone in my hand too much, right at the time that I'm in the presence of one of my children or a person, a friend, anyone, and I'm not giving eye contact. I'm not being intentional, saying, I love you, I see you. How you really doing? You okay today? Hey, thank you for my groceries, or thank you for my meal, but how are you doing? And just kind of leaning in to another person's life, because for all we know, we might be the only person that's leaned into their life in months or years and said, no, really, how are you doing?
Yeah, and don't be afraid to open up. I opened up to Tom. He's opened up to me. And I've only been here for a couple days, and it feels like I've been here for 3 weeks, because we've had insightful, intentional, and informative conversations that are making a difference. So we can, because it's all about glorifying God, so we can give back to others, right, Tom?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for men that are listening, think a lot more about how precious life is. Think about how to have different conversations. And a lot of times that might also mean changing somewhat our environment. I love everybody, but at the same time, I'm not meant to spend a lot of my week in certain environments because I walk away feeling negative instead of positive. And so a man told me years ago, he said, just go through everybody and you see each year, and just put a plus sign or a minus sign by them. And at first I thought, well, that's kind of harsh. But I got to thinking, and what he meant was not to take them out of your life, so to speak, but just to say, do they add to my life or do they take away? Do I feel uplifted and encouraged when I'm around them, or do I feel brought down?
Yeah.
And so I just, the other day I saw you, and right away I started sharing real talk. Right now I'm trying not to live with fear. I'm trying to live with faith on just work and finances and my home in Washington, not selling yet. And, I shared that with you, and right away you were speaking faith into my life and prayed with me. And I left that dinner going, it's going to be fine. It's going to be great.
Yeah.
I don't know how, because I sit here going, it still didn't this weekend. But with those things, listening to what a man is really going through, whether it's physical or health or spiritual or financial. And I know for a lot of us, finances are on our mind pretty often.
Yeah.
Lately things are very expensive in this world, gas and everything and food and everything's just expensive. But there is a way to live more often throughout the week and the day with faith and not fear. And I think, fear is really what caused me. A lot of it was to get into some of the addictions and issues that I got into in life. Fear of failure, fear of I'm not good enough, fear of I'm not going to be liked, fear of rejection, fear of abandonment. Fear is such a big topic. We'll need a whole nother episode to get into that a little more. But how do we overcome fear? Well, with faith, with God, but I do believe with each other.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, just came to mind when you said that. This is a John Gordon term. I'm a certified.
Love John.
I'm a certified John Gordon teacher. Shout out to Catherine and John. Yep. And it's interesting. He uses a term, energy vampires. You'll only go, and now I'm talking about the team, capital T-E-A-M, going back to team because it's so important. You're only going to go as far as your inner circle. And whether it's in the spiritual world, discipling people, for Christians that are listening, discipling, making each other better, bringing each other, crying with each other, bringing each other to the next level. Not reprimanding in a bad way, but confronting each other, saying, hey, brother, I don't think you're heading in a good direction. Or, hey, sister, I don't think you're heading in a good direction. But energy vampires are people that suck your energy, or really narcissistic people, to be quite honest, are not going to do it for you. Whether it's friends or family, you could always be kind. You can always be forgiving like Joseph was. I take that story to heart because I experienced a lot of stuff because of my family dynamics with my brothers. And it's not easy being the youngest. Some of you may be the youngest listening. And right, Tom, I mean, family dynamics are a huge part of getting a proper team together, making sure you grow, Christian or not, making sure you are properly growing your business, whatever business that may be. It filters and infiltrates in every area of your life.
Absolutely. I'd like to ask, I know we've got a little bit longer here, I'd like to ask about your current, throughout the week, what you're currently doing in regards to counseling children and their parents, and just kind of what are you seeing out there in regards to the family unit?
Boy, that's a whole week of podcasts, but I'll give you a synopsis for those listening. Like, I'm a school counselor full time at a middle school in Florida, and I do life coaching. And some of the life coaching I do are with, strangely enough, this might sound weird to some parents, but the way the society's going, everybody is pressed for time. And so I do some counseling with some of the parents of students outside of school, and I life coach them. And I actually just, and the parents are there, and we talk about, how do we get this? They get up. They don't want to do this. What did you do? Well, I was a nanny and teacher for celebrities' kids for a couple years. I've never been married, don't have kids, but have 33 years of experience dealing with thousands of parents and children. And I had the experience of being a nanny and a teacher, homeschooled to a second and third grader for 2 years in another state. And that taught me a lot because, like, wow. When things get tough, I can just give them back to mom when she gets home because she was on tour. But it taught me when I was with them, when they don't listen, what do you do? What strategies do you use? Do you pray with them? Because I used to pray with the kids all the time. And that helped. I mean, there's tough times, but getting back to being a counselor, I go through a day where I'm counseling kids on depression, anxiety. I give them strategies in my office about, you know, going through anxiety. How do you overcome anxiety? Well, it's all about mindset. If you don't have a proper mindset, positivity, like you were talking about positives and negatives, marking off each person, that's, you know, you should do that. I think I don't necessarily need to do it because I have my inner circle and the family members I connect with. I'm never rude. I actually would rather stay, and here's advice if you're going through family drama, stay more on the quiet side until you know, and I'm talking to Christians, until you know what God wants you to say and do, because oftentimes we go by emotion and we're too rash to judge, and I'm not talking about, you know, judging like in a harsh way, but you can't allow people, you can't allow coworkers, even coworkers, narcissistic coworkers. I deal with narcissistic family and coworkers by, I don't say a lot. I stay on the quiet side, and I pray for them, whether they know it or not. But God knows, because God knows your heart. You don't want to be put in that prison of resentment and bitterness towards any family member, coworker, etc. Right. You always want to be open. You always want to put a smile on, and you always want to compliment them so that your day goes smooth. That's what I do at work. There's a couple on the staff that I work with that aren't the easiest to work with, but I always put a smile on. I always put smiles in my emails or my texts. I'm always positive. I try to be positive. Like I have stay positive on my wristband and positive warrior. Why? Because it reminds me to be positive, to be a light to a dark world. It gets pretty dark sometimes. But life coaching transitions into school counseling. School counseling transitions into life coaching, as you know. And the different things that you got going on with your wife and kids, and how you're going to get your developing your podcast and helping couples that have gone through troubles and divorce, and it's all the same. It's all about positivity. Make sure you're listening. You have to be an active listener, because I often tell fellow counselors, and especially students, 6th, 7th, and 8th, because I work in a middle school. If you're not an active listener, you're never going to solve a problem with your friends. Because I do, the girl drama. Dr. N, we're having some girl drama. Okay, come on in. I'm doing paperwork at the desk, and I'm listening. But I'm always active listening when they're in their office, because I don't want to belabor, in my world, I don't want to belabor drama. And some parents might be listening right now. Boy, I'm going through drama with my kids, or my teen, or my preteen, or my high school kid, because I also coach high school kids with their parents. And it's not easy, but the most important thing for parents, please make sure, and I'm not judging when I say this, please make sure you're an active listener to your kids, because oftentimes when the kids are trying to tell the parents something, it's happened hundreds of times in my office with a closed door, that, hey, mom and dad, or hey, grandparent, are you listening enough? No, they don't. And the kids will say, or the grandchild will say, no, they don't listen. And then the parent gets offended, and then you got to kind of do damage control. But the damage control doesn't have to happen if you become an active listener at first, because active listening will save a lot of pitfalls. And you can get right to the source of the problem, as opposed to, a lot of people like to handle symptoms as opposed to going to the root. Right? We talked about that a lot the last couple of days.
That's so good. I think the root of the issue I've seen in my own life, and quite a few people that I coach, is this here, if you can see it, the phone. If I was asking you a question, and right when you started answering the question, I look down and I stare at my phone
right away, and but my first thought was, he's just not paying attention to me. I'm not important.
There it is.
I don't add value.
Yep. And deep down, all of us, regardless of age, we want to be seen, loved,
Heard.
understood, valued. And the second that somebody does that to me, I'm like, they don't really care. They don't really want to know. And I've been in the middle of conversation, and apparently maybe it got a little too boring for the other person, and so they went to their phone but it's such a drug that's killing our families, killing our marriages, killing our just killing us. And so I just wanted to speak on that I think we got to be so careful as dads and moms and not point the blame at the teenagers, and say, oh, it's the kids, they're always on their phone. Well, who bought them the phone? And at what age do we give them the phone?
That's right.
I mean, when do we give them the drug? I heard once it's like giving a kid cocaine, letting them do a line of it, and then saying, here, put the rest of this bag of cocaine in your pocket and don't touch it. That's how strong cell phone addiction and dopamine is in this screen. And so we've got to reduce the screen time. We've got to be more intentional. We've got to really say, no, how was your day? I care. I love you. And for the next 20 minutes, the next 10 minutes, start small if you have to, but truly give your children, give your spouse the respect of saying nothing else matters right now than this conversation. I love you. I'm here for you. And the first time you do that, it's not going to be groundbreaking. They're not going to pour their whole heart out. There's been years where they've seen you just stare at your phone. So now if you just do it once, they're going to be like, well, but they'll test the waters. And as weeks and months go by and you have this 10 or 20 or 30-minute special time with your child, you'll start to see they will open up and they'll start to say, Dad, I'm struggling. I'm dealing with some stuff and I don't know what to do. And that's when the beautiful parenting truly can happen. The coaching can truly happen. If I'm coaching a person and they've paid me for an hour session and I'm sitting there coaching them and I'm staring at my phone, do you think they're going to keep coming back?
Not at all.
Not at all. So why can't I do that with the people that are most precious to me, my wife and kids?
Yeah.
Because I take them for granted because they're always going to be there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Until they're not. So this topic is just wasn't in our notes at all today, but I think it's so important.
I wish, and this is to the public education system. I wish that more schools, and I know some of them in Texas are doing it, in other states, they're not allowing cell phones in schools. And I'll tell you what, that'd be a great law to implement at some level, because there's so many caveats to that, and it just red tape.
Yeah.
But how many? I was a dean for 2 years. How many instances in those 2 years when I was a dean in my time with dealing with hundreds of students, was it bullying through the cell phone? At least 25%.
Yeah.
Just with the cell phone.
Yep.
And if the cell phone wasn't there, that 25% probably would have been cut in half, at least. So there it is.
You ever heard the saying, when you want your child to no longer be a child, give them a cell phone? The Social Dilemma, great documentary. If you haven't watched it, The Social Dilemma talks about that. I've heard so many stories of corporate executives that have started a lot of these platforms that don't allow their own children to have electronics and access to social media. It's like, why? Just like a drug dealer that doesn't do the drugs, that's why he's successful in finances, because he doesn't do drugs. Same thing with these. It is interesting how we're called a user, kind of like a drug user. We're called a phone user. So a little bit of a soapbox there for me personally. And again, I'm not perfect. I'm still dealing with it on a daily basis. My wife has to put me in check and say, hey, phone.
And parents that allow cell phones, please make sure you're monitoring what your kids are on, because there's a lot of, I've taken training classes on this. Yeah. There's a lot of kid predators on there that pretend to be, some of you may know or not. And I'm putting it out there, that pretend to be a friend, and they're trying to seduce your child, and it's just wicked stuff.
Yeah, and now with AI and everything else, they can truly be deceived for a longer period of time, that it is just another friend their age playing a video game with them, and then it comes out. So important. We're talking about all kinds of topics today, but we want to continue to be challenging ourselves, challenging each other to be who God designed us to be leaders, to be encouraging men in the community, women in the community that inspire and encourage each other. One more topic. I know we're running out of time here, but you mentioned as we sat down that when we met, you felt inspired in regards to losing some weight. And I think that came on the topic of me sitting down going, I need to lose some weight. So if I did inspire you a couple years ago, because maybe I was.
It was at Amberly's event, and I was at the time probably 25 to 30 pounds overweight, probably 30.
Yeah.
I hide it well because it's in my midsection. It's visceral fat, for those of you who don't know, for a man, and the ladies will lose it in the caboose, or gain it in the caboose, excuse me. And so I was at the event, and I saw Tom in this sharp suit. I said, man, I wish I could fit. I think I was wearing a suit that I barely fit in the midriff, and it was a blue suit, and it was an Italian tailored suit that my mother wanted me to get. And she was so happy that I got it when she was still cognizant. We were having a talk about Italy, and she's from Italy. And, you know, Tom motivated me. I told him today that, hey, I lost 35 pounds. I want to lose another 15 pounds, you know, around the stomach area. And I bike in the morning. That's part of my time with God. I listen to the Bible while I bike.
Come on.
And I actually do probably usually around 13 to 15 miles a day.
Wow.
And I swim at night. That's when I'm in Florida. I've been working out at the hotel right close by the studio in the mornings, and it's been refreshing. I've been watching Wimbledon and just relaxing. So and that's the part of your day, especially the beginning of the day, whether you're a Christian or not. Spend some time where you can get in a proper mindset, right, Tom? Because if you don't, the rest of your day, for me, the rest of my day is a nightmare and a disaster. I don't have the patience. I don't have the intuitiveness and the insights that I normally would have and sleep. If you're not getting enough sleep.
Yeah.
I only got around 4 hours of sleep last night because I was thinking about a lot of stuff, and usually I sleep like a baby. But, you know, it's purposed. I actually put some thoughts down for the show and really had a time to really think and reflect, because reflection is so huge. Please try, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, to journal.
Yeah.
My journal's on my phone electronically, and I make sure that I journal, because when you look back at a journal, for those of you that don't, for those of you that do know what I'm talking about, when you look back from a Christian perspective, you look back what God has done, you're like, wow, that really increases my faith because I journaled, and you're just looking back, scrolling, or your manual journal. But if you're not a Christian, you could still obviously journal and really reflect on how you can become a better person to give back to others in your classroom or life, right, Tom?
That's so good. On one of our next topics, when we get together and do this again, I'd like to dive deep on internal anger. It just came to mind as you were talking about disciplines and exercise. And I know for myself and a lot of men, it's this internal frustration that turns to anger that then, if we're not careful, we point outwardly. So, for example, just briefly, if my finances aren't where they are, if my health isn't where it's supposed to be, and I set these benchmarks, but then I don't put in the work. I don't exercise, I don't eat right, I don't save, I spend. But then instead of owning up to it and changing my daily habits, I point outwardly. Well, it's because I don't get paid enough. It's because of taxes. It's because I'm too busy.
It's called being accountable, which I could write another book on, because, and it's not just the parents, it's the kids. When I have a student on the other side of my desk, and I always keep my door open, because that's just one of my policies, and my window shade is open as well, because I'm an open book, and I want people to be able to look in, and that's important. By the way, don't let your child cut you off on a regular basis of saying, oh, I'm just going in my room on my phone. Please make sure, and I'm reiterating this again, please make sure you know your son, daughter, or if you're a guardian, your adoptive son or daughter are watching or listening or talking to, because I've seen and been through horror stories over the past 33 years with the deputies, the SROs in our schools, and I've taught in 4 different states before I settled down in Florida 18 years ago, in a great school district that I'm in. It's horrifying, parents, or guardians, or ad litems, who are different individuals listening, and you really, really need to be accountable to that point, getting back to the phone,
Yep.
getting back to relationships, getting back to making sure that you're an open book,
Yeah.
being transparent. Don't try to hide things. You know, I tell parents, don't try to hide things. Know what's going on with your kids.
Yeah.
Know their code
Yeah.
of their phone. Right, Tom?
100%. I know the most freeing day of my life was when I realized that my daughter had asked for my phone to look something up real quick, and I handed it to her, and it didn't bother me at all. I had no hesitation thinking, what would she find on my phone? And so when I got to that point in my journey where my wife, my daughter, my sons, anybody ever wants to use my phone, it's 0000 is a password. It's sitting right there. You need it, go ahead. And that openness and honesty, that transparency, it took me a lifetime to get there. Don't give up. Push on. Be the man that you know God wants you to be. And it starts with the fathers and the mothers. But, you know, what we ask out of our children, we should, to some extent, be willing to say, yeah, you can use my phone too, because we're not looking at things and doing things that we shouldn't. So, such an important topic. You know, my wife is my best friend, and yet there was times that I wasn't able to live like this because of the other box that I put my life in, and I'll get into that later. But God is good. God is faithful, and He is restoring families. He is restoring relationships. I have 2 sons and a daughter, and right now I can say it's never been more beautiful than it's ever been in my life since I've had them.
Awesome.
Because of these daily disciplines, because of the circles that I spend most of my time in of men that challenge me and encourage me. Hey, Tom, yeah, you gained some weight, but you can lose it. Hey, Tom, how's your prayer life? Hey, Tom, I missed you at the meeting. Hey, Tom, you know, there's men in my life that can speak into my life like that and challenge me to say, oh, I got a little off track, but I didn't fall way, way, way off of the of track there. So let's encourage each other, inspire each other, and uplift each other. There is hope. There is healing. Find accountability. Be transparent. Be open. And again, this is real talk about real life. And if this has encouraged you, share it, like it, subscribe. The Joy Hour show here. We are excited to talk and get together today. Any last comments of how to find you or anything?
Lifeisaclassroom.net. And once again, the coaching tools are lifeisaclassroom.net/Bloom Tools. Hopefully it will help. I've actually given lifeisaclassroom.net/Bloom Tools to several students, and emailed several students, and in person, you have given me permission to take my phone out, Doctor? Yes. Take their phone out. They look it up. They look up the website. You know what? Give back. Be an open book. But in that open book, last comment, which could be another episode, create boundaries.
Yeah.
Boundaries are huge. Because when parents don't set up boundaries, whether it's the mom, dad, guardian, foster mom, foster dad, disasters can happen. As you know, some of you listen probably shaking your head. Yes. And if you're not familiar with boundaries, be happy to share with you. We go over different coaching scenarios with the coaching page. And Tom, I could talk with you another 5 hours.
Well, I've got some ideas of how we can continue to do that, both in person and virtually. One more time on the book here too, Bloom Where You Are. You can find this.
Amazon.
Yeah.
And we also have the same story is in a different book with Jim Britt. It's an international bestseller. It's on lifeisaclassroom.net. And remember, this is a theme of get a mantra. One of the coaching pages is get a mantra. I know Tom's got one, and my mantra is learn, dream, and achieve, and give back to someone who can't give back to you in your classroom of life. It's been a pleasure.
I love it. Mine is, as long as there's breath, there's hope. We love y'all.
Love you.